Jack Pilgrim here with Zach Gagan and Jacob Polachek. Drew Franklin is out. He's getting ready for, I guess, the trip to Nashville next week. They've been talking about going, driving an NCAA tournament and all that. So they're getting ready. They're getting prepared. So it's just us. We're here. It is midnight. The players are still funneling their way out. I think we just saw Tre Mitchell leave. Reed Shepard and Antonio Reeves still might be over there, but it's late. It's 12 o'clock. I feel like Scott Van Pelt. It's midnight. I'm still not tired. Still not tired.
Scott Van Pelt after midnight. So this is our version of that.
Yeah. So Zach, this was a lot of fun. We're in. We're out. It's sad that it's over.
Yeah. Senior night came and went. We recognized 3 seniors ahead of the time. Brennan Canada, for whatever reason, his own personal reasons, he decided not to go through senior day because he did it last year. Antonio Reeves said, screw that, I'm jumping through that paper hoop again. And it was him, Tre Mitchell, Kareem Watkins. We got to see Kareem go out there and take the floor. He had his 1 rebound. He went out with a bang in his 4th year, his final. I think he's played, 25 total games, which actually kind of surprised me that he's played that many games, I guess, just throughout the blowouts over the year. But yeah, it was fun pregame festivities with the 3 seniors that were honored. And then Kentucky got off to a kind of, I don't know if it was predictably slow start, but predictable in the sense that you can't predict anything that's going to happen with this Kentucky team. They got off to a very slow start on offense, kicked things up at the end of the first half, and then just kind of cruised in the second half. Rob Dillingham was doing Rob Dillingham things from start to finish. But it was a fun night, and yeah, it's always sad on the last game of the year at Rupp. I like to be very sentimental, and once we're done, I'll sit at one of those, probably in section 27 there. I'll just go sit in one of those chairs and just stare around for 2 minutes and soak it all in. I don't know if y'all do that or not, but just to kind of enjoy the fact that this is what we get to do for a living. It's fun. So that I cede my time or whatever.
So it was senior night for those 3 if you include the people who actually jumped through the hoop, but it's going to be senior night kind of, sort of, for several others. Rob Dillingham obviously going to be the main guy who is now the number 3 projected draft pick, who played like it again tonight. 23 points, just exploded again down the stretch. You got really impressive comments from John Calipari and Jerry Stackhouse after the game where Cal basically said if Rob plays the way he did down the stretch as a play creator, there's nobody better in college basketball than him. Jerry Stackhouse throwing out Kyrie Irving comparisons and such. So Rob Dillingham, I hope the fans here at Rupp Arena enjoyed his time here, but it's gonzo, done. You could probably go down the list. DJ Wagner, Reed Shepard, very, very much in the running to leave. But it's going to be sad to say goodbye to some of these other guys as well.
Yeah, absolutely. DJ Wagner, I think that he's improved a ton. Coming off the injury, he looks a lot more comfortable out there, and now he's hitting some threes, 3 for 5 from 3 today. I really like to see that, and we could talk about Rob all day and all night. He is unbelievable. When he gets hot, there's nobody better in the entire country. There's just not enough you can say about Rob, and like you said, he should be a top 3 pick in this next draft.
Reed Shepard is a guy that, has kind of been up and down the draft boards, but is now number 5 overall, and he played like it again tonight. Cal also had some very positive comments about him. Is this the last time that we see Reed Shepard inside Rupp Arena as a player? He's going to be back no matter what, but is this the last time we see him here?
Probably, and I should stop making predictions about where I think Reed Shepard's going to go in the NBA draft because, at this point, the kid is probably going to be a top 5 pick, and it would almost be, I don't know if stupid's the right word, but misinformed would be probably a better way to put it, to return to Kentucky if you are guaranteed to be a top 5 pick. Like, you've got to go, leave, dude. Everyone's going to tell you to leave except for the people in Kentucky, I guess, but people like us, we're going to tell you to leave. So, if that's the case with him, then that's the case. But he had 11 assists tonight. I didn't really know that actually until Jacob posted something on KS Sports saying that was his career high. He hit a couple threes as well tonight. He loves to do his outlet pass. He had 2 touchdown Hail Marys that he pretty much converted. I think one maybe didn't go the way that he wanted. But that was stuff that you and I saw at North Laurel, and it was kind of the first time we saw him do 2 of those in one game. So it was kind of fun to see that throwback play, if you will. But yeah, man, Reed's gone, Rob's gone. All these guys should be gone because they're bona fide NBA players right now, and it's kind of crazy that this team's going to have that many when it's all said and done.
And that's why Cal this week, I think, really wanted to drive that point home of guys, now is the time for us all to take a step back, take a deep breath, and say, the run starts now. We are now transitioning into postseason play, SEC tournament in Nashville, and then where things are trending in the NCAA tournament. 3 seed now very much in the picture. Maybe even a slight, ever so slight chance at a 2, but that 3-4 range in the NCAA tournament. Like, now is the time that we start thinking about what's next and those things. And it's a sad time for some Kentucky fans, but it's also very exciting because March is where it's at, and there's a lot to be excited for. It's been a minute since we've had a run that I think, Jerry Stackhouse kind of talked about it afterward, that this, Cal says that this team is built for March. Stackhouse said that the way they played tonight, that's a team that looks like it's one very capable of making a run, Jacob. I think you want your teams to be playing and finding its groove right now. After that several week stretch where things were crumbling, they're kind of finding their groove right now.
I will be a little bit critical in the fact that if you start a game like they did tonight against a real NCAA tournament team, you're going to get blown out. But at the same time, when you have guys like Rob Dillingham that can just take over a game and erase a 15-point deficit, a 20-point deficit, you can come back from anything. But you can't start games like this.
Kareem Watkins did start. We must add. He will not be starting the NCAA tournament. I can rest assured.
But to Jacob's point, it's been a thing all season long. Even it just doesn't matter really who's going to step in the building or what building Kentucky's going to step into. You really just have no idea what's gonna happen. And it really wasn't until the last 100 seconds of that first half where Kentucky actually looked like Kentucky, where they had 4 straight threes to close that first half. And then in the second half, you had individual runs by Rob and Justin. And it just feels like sometimes it takes a little bit longer for the engine to get cooking. And to Jacob's point, that's going to be tough to deal with. You might be able to get by with that in the round of 64 or 32, but come Sweet 16, you can't be going into, it can't be, if it's 6-6 after 6 minutes, like it was tonight, that's not going to put me in the best mind state thinking about Kentucky's chances.
It's exciting to talk about the now, but there's also some, interesting stuff about the future as well. Some potential future Cats in attendance, Jacob. That was, and we knew of one. We were very confident in one, Darren Peterson taking his official visit these next couple of days. And then we get a very late update on Josan Sannon, a top 15 recruit in the 2025 class, very serious reclass candidate for 2024. He is a late arrival. And then Malachi Moreno, just a 7-footer, just randomly up in the stands, making his presence felt in his own ways. A top 25 kid in the 2025 class, lives in Georgetown right down the street. So how about that? Some potential future Cats here as well, watching the current Cats.
Yeah, it feels like Malachi Moreno is here every game at this point. He's here all the time, but Darren Peterson, that's a huge visitor, number 3 player in the country, in a loaded class. He probably would be number 1 in a lot of classes. And then Josan Sannon, who's a top 15 player in the class, who doesn't have an offer from Kentucky yet, but like you said, a reclass candidate, and is a really great player. So this was probably their biggest game recruiting-wise all season, so it's huge to get a win.
How did Sonon get here again, Jack?
Well,
that's how he arrived.
It's my understanding there were no flights direct from Boston to Lexington, so he had to fly into Louisville and just kind of made a sort of pit stop to Louisville. So it was announced as Josan Sannon is taking a visit to see Kenny Payne at Louisville, and Louisville fans are like, hooray, maybe our life isn't as miserable as we thought. And then news breaks that it was like a 15-minute chat before going to the real reason why he's in Kentucky, going to make this visit at Kentucky. So it was kind of like one of those, man, how low can things actually get for the Louisville basketball program that they hang on to this top 15 kid for like 38 seconds before he comes and sees the real prize, what he's actually here in Kentucky for. So a big high-profile visit for several different guys here. But I guess we have to talk about what this means big picture. You weren't going to learn a whole lot about this game beyond the win or loss. Now that you have won this game, a 5 seed in the SEC tournament is guaranteed no matter what. They're not going to slip to a 6. But if you win on Saturday in Knoxville, you now have a 2 potentially locked up. So, Zach, how important was it big picture to, be on the cusp of securing that double bye and, picking up that momentum going into Nashville?
Well, double bye is huge, obviously, and this was just a game that they simply could not afford to lose. And to their credit, they hunkered down there in the second half and came out with the win. I believe that Kentucky doesn't even have to beat Tennessee to still get the double bye. They just have to have some other things fall their way. I think something weird, like maybe Georgia has to win or something like that. I saw some tweets saying, what the scenarios are. There's a bunch of different ways it can play out, but in terms of, what we can take away from this game, I do think there are some small things, mainly things like, we already know that, Rob and Antonio could just put up points whenever they want, but DJ continues to shoot the hell out of the ball. That's a very good development. Justin Edwards is it's still in spurts, but these spurts are oh my God, this guy looks like the player that we thought he was going to be. And they're still in spurts, so it needs to stretch out a little bit more, but I think
on both ends too, yeah.
Yeah, his defense has really, really stepped up. And then kind of in the sour notes, you've got Tre Mitchell, who he had a bucket today, which I guess is a start from his 0-for-5 performance against Arkansas, but it just doesn't look, it's just clear that something is still kind of nagging at him. There was one point where he came up limping a little bit, the guy's just struggling to get back into his conditioning shape, and that's understandable. Cal even mentioned he's in the same spot that DJ was 2 weeks ago. So I guess, if you're going to follow that timeline, I guess that means in a couple weeks, Tre's going to come out here and start shooting 3 for 5 from deep every game, and then Kentucky's really going to be in a good mood. So, and another thing, while I'm rambling here, is we'll continue to wade through this big man rotation of which center is going to actually step up and be playable today. And it was kind of none of them, to be honest. Not really any of the three had that great of games. Aaron kind of had a spurt that was nice. Big Z had a stretch there. I think at the second half that was kind of a little bit interesting. Ugo actually kind of started great with the rim protection until he kind of slowed down. So the questions that we have are kind of being answered a little bit more as we go along, but there still are some, and I think the biggest one is that center spot right now.
Yeah, Cal said, was asked, are you going to be shortening the rotation? That's kind of been his shtick since he first arrived here, that 10 or 11 turns into 8, 9, and then by the NCAA tournament, it gets down to 6, 7. If you're ready to play, you're ready to play. If not, tough luck. He kind of pushed back on that a little bit, Jacob, and was like, I think we just have too much stuff to work with that is going to be situational. We can't just say Z is going to be the guy. We're going to ride him through thick and thin, because there are other complementary pieces. If you need defense, you have Ugo. If you need some different versatility, you have AB. It's kind of a beauty, and we've seen it be a curse at times this season, but there's also a beauty in having more depth than anybody else in March.
Yeah, I think you said it right there, gift and a curse, where it's you have so many guys that can contribute that it's hard to bench people, but then at the same time, especially with the front court, nobody is really stepping up and taking that 5 spot. So he's kind of having to rotate between the 3 7-footers and then having Tre there at the 4. There's no one really stepping up and saying, this is my spot, I'm the starter, I want to be the guy. So it's great to have so many weapons, but at the same time, you want to see guys step up.
Vibes very good inside Rupp Arena here as we wrap up Antonio Reeves. 4th straight win. First time since, I believe, December?
2012.
December since that's happened. So that's great vibes. Shout out Antonio Reeves, Tre Mitchell for what they've done here. Obviously, Kareem Watkins and Brennan Canada as well. But in terms of the on-court production this season, Tre Mitchell coming in has been just, Cal called it fate back then, and Canada as well. But in terms of the on-court production this season, Tre Mitchell coming in has been just, Cal called it fate back then, and you couldn't ask for the way he has impacted the style of play and the structure of this team, and the true 5-out. None of that happens without Tre Mitchell. So shout out Tre. Antonio Reeves has turned into, in my opinion, the best all-around scorer in college basketball. That's a guy that has become went from a one-dimensional scorer to a true 3-level scorer that's now a legitimate draft pick. So Antonio Reeves, none of this would happen without either of those two. Now it's time for a big trip to Knoxville and then Nashville the following week. So we wrap up from Rupp Arena one last time. Jack Pilgrim, Zach Gagan, Jacob Polachek. We'll see you in Knoxville.